Hi, and thank you for being here. My name is Raquel with Paints and Glitter, and I am here today to introduce you to the second part of this tutorial using the Enchanted Fairy Village die collection released in March Madness 2024. This is an 85-piece die set. So what I've done is that I've already shared how you can make this little toadstool or mushroom little gift box, and today we're going to be making Tatiana Tulip Fairy House. So they're two different little styles, however, you make them in the way that you see fit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through how I will be making one today, and then we're going to assemble it together. So I'm going to be referring to my little sheet here, but the first thing that you're going to do is that you're going to create a base. I always like to cut mine out twice, and I'm using the brown craft card from Tonic Studios. It's got a really nice substantial weight, and if you've seen my other video, you'll notice I did the same thing. The difference here is that the larger box uses the dies in the collection that have a decagon because it's 10-sided, whereas this one just uses this hexagon piece. So a little bit different. This is the larger piece. This is what you'll cut 10 times for the base. And I've used a tan brown card from Tonic Studios. Then this pearlescent card I cut out using this solid piece. And then I ran that paper through my machine using this one here. And that's how you're going to get that gorgeous texture, okay? So, of course, you can use this separately, and this will not cut the edges, so it's a great way to create a really nice textured background. Because I have these in front of me, let's go ahead and start with this. So what you're going to do is fold and burnish all of the tabs. Now, whenever you see a semicircular tab like this and the little rectangles, all that means is that you're going to be able to adhere those little tabs to the adjacent panel, and the little rectangles are kind of there to just fill in the space, but you can go ahead and apply your adhesive down here on the larger tab in the bottom, and then go ahead and place the side of your hexagon right butted up next to that. And you're going to want to use a paper creaser whenever you do 3D paper crafting. It comes in handy not only to burnish folds, but to apply pressure without hurting your hands and without leaving dents on the paper. So I highly recommend it. Okay, let's repeat this 5 more times around, and I'll be right back. Now that we've applied all of our tabs there to this bottom piece, we can flip this over. You see how it starts looking like a really nice flower almost already. Let's take our second hexagon, and I'm going to actually apply a generous amount of adhesive. So I have the precision tip on the other bottle that I use, but then this one that comes with the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive is a little bit broader application, so I like to use this generously when I am attaching the base of a box. You don't need a lot of adhesive, but I do this because it gives me a moment to kind of shift around the paper as needed to make sure that I'm placing it correctly, kind of try to walk it around, and that way I know it's going to make contact on the entire base here, and this is going to create a really nice sturdy foundation for the box. I like my boxes to be heavier in weight at the bottom, and then that way they won't topple over once they're emptied of their contents, and it'll make a really pretty decoration, or you can just keep refilling it. So now we can flip this over again. We're now going to take the sides that you would have folded over, and there's also this little tab at the very top, but we're going to leave that to the end. So let's just start applying our adhesive on all of these little tabs here. And I tried to not miss, but sometimes I do. Okay, and if you want to lightly touch the little rectangular tabs. That's not going to hurt anything. Okay, then you want to walk this paper from the very bottom all the way up, and you want to make sure that you pay attention to those little corners, and that way you get a nice even base. So I always use my thumb to kind of pinch those tabs toward the adjacent panel, and then I walk it up as soon as I create some tack there. But I'm also paying attention to where that paper folds, and I'm directing that adjacent panel, that edge, right toward that fold. So that way I get the shape that this is intended to be. So this is going to be a little bit time consuming because you do have to make sure you get a good tack on here. The other option that you have, of course, is to use double-sided adhesive on that flat edge and then have those little tabs meet up. Just make sure that the topmost portion there also meets up, and you can hold that together. Then as it's drying, if you notice any lifting of your decorative panels, you can also sneak in a little bit of a drop of adhesive here and there as needed. So we are going to repeat this step all the way around. Once all of those tabs are adhered, I will be right back. Okay, hopefully you have reached this step now where all of your panels are adhered. And one thing that I can advise you is I take my hand and just, we all have different size hands, obviously, but I try to rest it underneath the paper when it's a 3D make, and then just use it to have a place to kind of direct the paper as I'm shaping it, especially when it's something like this that's a fluted type shape, because if not, then if you pinch the paper together, for example, here's an example, you'll get a different result, because that's exactly what I did. I was holding it like that. I got a different result on that curve than I did on all of the other ones. Not that it really matters, but all I can say is that if you want a really pretty result, then consistently repeating the same steps is going to give you a consistent finish. So whatever you do on one side, try to repeat that all the way around, and then you'll be happy with your result. So now the top little tabs here are just going to meet the adjacent panel as well. Another little thing is that you can definitely supplement this with double-sided tape. If that makes it easier for you, by all means, go ahead and use it. I just have to stress that any 3D project that you only use tape on is eventually going to fall apart. So how do I know? From years of making them and having in the past used just double-sided adhesive, thinking that that was a great idea because in the moment it made life just easy, right? But I've noticed that because there's that strip that carries the adhesive, that particular portion of it will deteriorate. And so the bond then starts to break apart, whereas a liquid adhesive actually does bond the paper together. So then it's very difficult to have that fall apart even when the temperature changes. So there, I've just held together all those little tabs. Super easy. You barely even have to move the paper. You just want to bear in mind that you don't want to pull it too hard, and you want all of the little edges to be completely even all the way around, if you can do that. And then you have half of your box already good to go. So let's move on to the uppermost portion of this. Now for the roof of this little house or box, however you want to look at it, we're going to be starting off with 6 panels that look like this. And these are to resemble the petals of the tulip. What I've done is that I cut them out in marigold yellow card from Tonic Studios, and that's a classic card. And then I did apply 2 different colors of embellishment mousse to get this gorgeous pearlescent finish. So I started off with a green on the top and then yellow on the bottom, and then just blended that. Then I did take a marker, and it was number 452, pink taffy, and I just dotted the little petals so that it would have that texture like that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that all of the little tabs are folded away, including that triangular tab on the top. Then go ahead and take a look at your 2 hexagons that you have available. You are going to use them, these small ones, both of them. However, for this portion, we're going to use the smallest of the 2, okay? So go ahead and flip that paper pretty side down. Take one of your petals and adhere that little triangle portion onto the edge, just like so. Okay, now this is going to be covered, this particular portion here, with the rest of what we make. So you can use whichever weight paper you're comfortable with. Okay, and I'm going to continue applying these all the way around. So just meet up that triangle with the little edge. So your little lid should look something like this now. So very pretty. You can go ahead and flip that over. And I've taken 2 more of those tiny little hexagons and just coupled those. I adhered them together. And that's because this is such a delicate little portion that I really do want to make sure that this is nice and sturdy. So I'm going to sandwich those little petals there in the center, secure them with that really nice heavy brown craft card from Tonic Studios, and that way I know that this little lid is going to be a little bit more substantial if it gets handled, and that's the reasoning behind that for me. Okay, so now that's nicely fastened, it's nice and secure. I'm going to follow the little edges here with these darling little half circles. And I'm going to adhere the adjacent petal to those, just walking it all the way down. Now when you use different mediums on your paper, it may impact how long it takes for it to dry, but I don't find that the embellishment mousse is all that difficult to work with if it's layered onto paper. I really don't notice a huge difference. So if you're new to that medium, then I would say if you're really making it a thick application, then of course bear that in mind, that it might impact what you can adhere on top. But if you're just doing a very light application as I did, which by the way, I just use the Nuvo brushes that you can get from Tonic Studios, then you'll get a very, very nice light application. So I'm just joining these all the way down. And that's where that flare is really going to start to show. So I'm going to repeat this all the way around and I'll be right back. Okay, you should now have something that looks like this, and I already am loving it. I think it's so adorable. So I'm just going to set that aside for a moment, and we're going to continue on with this shape here. This is going to allow us to create a box lid out of this little petal flower shape. So we're going to go ahead and start assembling this by simply, first I'm going to suggest that you do fold your little score lines, okay? And there's 2 little triangles that you're going to notice there at the top. There's 1 little tab, and you will need 3 of these. There's a fold line here in the center, okay? And then there's a horizontal line here, which you can fold over just gently And I do suggest that you use either 300 GSM card here or the brown craft card, which is what I'm using. This is almost like, it just reminds me of a folio type material. It's quite strong. So, of course, you want to make sure you maintain the integrity of the shape when you're burnishing it. That's a bit important. So go ahead and fold and score all of those lines. You are now going to adhere the little rectangular tab there at the end onto the next little strip, not on the folded portion, but on the bottom straight edge to form one long piece. Apply your next one. Go ahead and start adhering those little triangles to the adjacent rectangle shape there, or trapezoid, and then make sure that this is adhered at that angle that you're going to notice there. It's about I would say maybe a 45-degree angle, maybe not that sharp, but it's going to adhere like so, and this is going to create a little hexagon foundation to allow you to create a little lid. So just patiently make sure you maintain that shape, and that's why that's a little rectangle. I'm sorry, a little triangle. Triangle, rectangle, all the shapes. make sure that you adhere it in that fashion. Continue on, just applying a little bit of pressure there. Now at the very end, you're going to be joining these two pieces. So you may find it a little bit easier to just go ahead and do that little bottom panel first, just to join this as if it were a ring. Make sure it's even top to bottom. And we're not going to adhere that top portion just yet. We first want to make sure that that creates a really good bond there. And apply your adhesive to that little triangle that's left. And then you make sure that you maintain that little dome shape again. So just follow the fold lines, and this is then going to come together really nicely. I recommend that once this is dry, that you go ahead, place it on the perimeter here, or the edge of the little box that you're going to be closing. You see that? Now you only need to place adhesive on that uppermost edge, and then place your little flower on here, okay? So if it makes it easier for you, you can do it like this. And I'm going to be quite generous with this adhesive on these little panels. Okay, but I'm avoiding that bottom edge. It's only the top that's getting some good amount of adhesive here, okay? You can now go ahead and place your little petals right on top. And what I suggest is that you aim your seams of your petals to the very seams of the bottom of the box, and then that way you know that these little seams on here are also going to land exactly where they need to be, okay? So then you can just go ahead and push down and then apply very gentle pressure all the way around to make sure that this is making contact. And give it a little rub. Once that creates a nice tack and you're able to lift it without the ring remaining on that base, go ahead and pick it up, and now you can apply pressure on every single one of those petals right where that paper has already started to adhere. Okay, so I'm just pressing only that top portion, so it's now closest to the center of the flower, and I'm pressing really nice and hard here. I don't have very strong hands, but I'm pressing on it quite a bit. Okay, so you may have noticed that I also colored the inside of my petals a little bit with the mousse. I did that on purpose because I wanted this to have a cute kind of look toward the inside of this. Now, if you want to, it's up to you. You can certainly cut smaller pieces to fit inside of here, little triangles if you like. You may use a different die set maybe to do that, and then hide those tabs if they bother you. I am going to proceed, however. So we've got that portion done. It fits perfectly. We already tested that portion out, which is why I wanted to do it that way. Now there is another panel that you can cut out, and you can see it's these sizes. I've also colored it again using Nuvo mousse in that ombre style, and then I did place that gorgeous layer on top. There are two different layers that you can use. What I did was that I used Water Sprite mirror card, and I cut it out using that gorgeous pattern, and these can now lay right on top. However, I got to thinking that I would really like to add more volume to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another set of petals, and I am actually going to adhere them kind of in between the other two that are already there. So this is just the way that I'm choosing to do this. You don't have to. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to apply a bead of adhesive here. Again, you can omit this and just apply your layers right on top. But the way that I'm going to do it is that I'm going to apply a little bead of adhesive here, right on the seams. And then I'm going to apply the next layer of petals. Okay. So once this is complete, I will be right back. Okay, so I've adhered that second layer of petals, and what I've done is I've tried to make it as narrow as possible there on the top, because there's going to be another little layer for the top of this. But I think you can see where I'm going with this. I'm adding more volume, and then I have the layer, that uppermost layer, that could of course lay entirely flat on here, but of course we can continue adding volume. And I got to thinking that that would look really pretty also as a layer there with those two kind of just staggered is the word I'm looking for. Now, because I'm doing this, I am going to use hot glue, and that way I can be more precise in my application because I'm only adding a little bit. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to apply my little panel right there. And I realize this is creating bulk, but I am doing this on purpose. Okay, so I'm going to add mine like that. Otherwise, you can just stick with the one shape and then add this right on top. This is just completely optional. I just wanted to go for a different look here. So this is kind of applying a seal here almost. Okay, and I'm going to press on that. Okay, and I'm just going to continue this all the way around. applying the adhesive here, up there, and then applying another little panel and pressing that. Okay, and it's going to be completely loose there at the bottom, so it's still going to add quite a bit of volume. Continue that. I'm just trying to make sure that I center it as much as possible. I realize that hot glue is, you know, one of those tricky things to use, because if you get it wrong, then you really can't go back and fix it. But I try to exercise grace with myself when I'm crafting, and I try to tell myself the same thing I say to everyone else. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just enjoy the process. It's about having fun, okay? So if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. That's all I can say about that. Okay, so one last little petal here, and I am loving this. I think it's so very pretty. Okay. So again, I'm going to hold those two pieces together, and then I'm going to apply that one right there, right on top, and press down on it as much as I can without altering, of course, the shape of that inside piece. All right, so I'm trying to be really careful. Okay, I'm quite happy with the results of that. It's so pretty. Now there is another layer, okay, and this is the one I was just referring to a moment ago. For that, you are going to want to use the larger of the two little hexagons that you could cut out. Okay, so we just used that little tiny one. Now you can use the larger one, and then you're going to attach your little petals onto that. And this also has layers. What I have done is that I've cut the solid one out in pink cardstock. This is bubblegum pink. And then I did use a Nuvo drop in the color Carnation pink, and I colored the petal, if you can see there, in an ombre style using that drop. What I did was that I applied one very thin layer just to the upper third, and then I applied another layer just to the uppermost portion there, so that way it would go from dark to light. And then I did use this layer here, which is the decorative layer, and you do have options in this set. So I'm just going to adhere those two together. And I did select the pink because I thought it would be a really nice pop of color after all of that yellow and green, of course. And once you have those two together, they're going to go on a layer that looks like this. It has a little triangle on the top and then two little tabs on the side. So make sure you adhere that. And I do suggest that for this project you do add all of your decorative panels before you place them together, unless you're going to do something like this, okay? It just makes life a whole lot easier. Then grab your little hexagon, apply your adhesive onto that triangle portion, and that's that uppermost little tab. And this should match right along the edge. And I did use that marigold yellow card for these layers. All it has is the Nuvo mousse on it, and that's why it may look different. It's giving it a little bit of a green cast, but I just could not resist using embellishment mousse for this because it does give that beautiful shine. And I just thought for this particular type of whimsical project, it was just perfect. Okay, so my little petals are all adhered. Now I'm going to apply the second piece on the inside. Again, just to create some stability there. So I'm just going to cut away the little tabs. And again, this is just personal preference here, because I'm basically changing the shape. And I have plenty of surface here onto which I can adhere this. So that's what I'm choosing to do. Otherwise, again, you can just follow the regular instructions and adhere all of those little tabs together. And this is how I typically craft, is I make it up as I go along, depending on what inspires me. So, not always a rule follower when it comes to crafting, but that's okay. We each have our own style, and it's whatever makes you happy, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adhere these on top like this, and it's going to be a little bit more open. It's not going to have those little tabs, but what I'm going to also do is I'm going to allow myself the use shape. You can go ahead and apply dimensional adhesive if you'd like to. I've got these little foam pads from Craft Perfect by Tonic Studios, and these are the 12mm wide squares, and they do come in other sizes, so if you need tinier ones, they have them in the smaller size. They also have them in black, so depending on the project that you're making, you may benefit from that. So I'm just going to take off the little lining back here, and I am going to supplement this with a little bit of liquid adhesive, just a little dot right there. Okay, and then I'm going to place my little petals where I want them. And actually, I think, yeah, I want to apply a little drop of adhesive here on the top. I almost forgot. Okay, and now I'm going to just let this fall right on top. It's going to be a little more open than it otherwise would have been, but it also allows room for all of that bulk that I added. I'm just pressing on it very lightly. And of course the shape is a tiny bit different, but it doesn't bother me one bit. I love it. I think it's so beautiful. This design is just spectacular. Okay, so that completes that lid, of course, a little bit different. So here's the profile view, of course. Now I will be, of course, sharing photos. However, let's continue on with the rest of this because there's so much more and it's all adorable. Now there are little windows that you can add to this, so let me show you that. I went ahead and cut that little kind of dome shape out of that solid pearlescent card, and then I cut it with the decorative dies that do cut out that little heart motif. Then I cut it again with majestic gold card, and that's what I inlaid there. So it may look a little brown in the video, but it's actually gold. I also colored around the edges using the Nuvo alcohol markers and a little white jelly roll pen. I also cut out this shape here, and that's another little window that you can add. What I did there was that I also colored around the perimeter using that same marker, that pink taffy. Then I also used one of the glimmer gloss pens. I colored the center heart with that, and that is vellum. So the center of that, if you see there, is nice and glimmery. Then I just colored in those little dots all the way around. I was going for whimsy here. So the front door looks like this. You can cut it out using the dies included, and then you can layer on top of it if you'd like. What I did was I layered a solid square in gold, and that's mirror card, and then on top of it I layered the little heart panel, colored it again using the same piece here. Okay, and then there's the eave that you can use for the door. So I'm going to show you how to put that together. There's also a ton of greenery, there's flowers, there are little items that you can use here. These little strips, they resemble steps with cobblestones, so I did cut those out using craft card. Then there's this piece here. The base of it, I did use Nuvo embellishment mousse to color in a green color. I can't recall the name right now. And then I layered on top of that using the second panel, so that way it looks like a stone wall there. So that's an option. There's also this piece that says welcome, I cut that out in gold, and that's going to go on my front door there. There's the hinge for the door. I took a piece of 300 GSM card. I colored it using some oxide ink from Ranger, and it was in a really cool, I think it's sea moss or something like that. Then on top of that, I did sprinkle some Nuvo embossing powder in the color Golden Egg. So that's got little specks of black in there and white. It's really neat. And then of course in that gold color, that's really fabulous. Then I cut it out, and here's what I got, that nice variegated look that does remind me of stone. I've also cut out some little flowers, and I've got those here along with all of the other pieces that you can cut out, which are little roses. There's ivy pieces, just different types of leaves. This one has little polka dots in there, so cute. Then there's these other little longer stems with leaves. Tons to have fun with here. The roses are also layered, so you'll see that at the end of the video. Leaves that you can cut out, so let me show you that. That's what those look like. Super cute. They do have a little vein in the center, so if you like to highlight that sort of thing, you can certainly do that with a marker or ink, whatever you like. Let's go ahead and make There are these pieces here that will create a 2-layer step, if you will. And what you can do is you can start burnishing the fold lines, and the die is going to do all of the scoring for you. So here I did also use the brown craft card from Tonic Studios because it's nice and sturdy, and of course the perfect color for steps. So what I did was I did apply some ink to that. Okay, so that's why it's got the kind of mossy look to it, which is what I was going for. Go ahead and fold the little tabs that you see on the sides. So these two are very, very small, so just be careful with the thinner tabs there. Okay, because you don't want to bend your paper. All right, and once you have it folded, you can burnish it. And there's one larger tab that you can fold. Okay, so this is all going to fold in, and okay, so this is going to create, it's going to look like a little box, okay? Just go ahead and fold everything in, gauge where it's going to land, if you will, okay? And once you have it nicely shaped, all right, this is how I tend to do them. Then once you know exactly where everything's going to land, then you can go ahead and decide where you're going to place your adhesive, okay? Because this is at a bit of an angle. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply my adhesive on this thin tab first, kind of like a little puzzle. That rectangular tab and then this larger one. I think that's going to help here to maintain the shape. And fold that over, close that up. Okay. I'm going to repeat that on the other side, applying adhesive to all of my little layers here, and then adhering one by one, or folding one by one. Okay, I'm going to apply some pressure there so that it stays put. I'm going to sneak a little bit of adhesive in between these two pieces of paper there. Okay, that needle nose tip really helps out with that sort of thing. And I'm just going to apply some pressure there. Once you've adhered your first little step there, okay, bear in mind that you want to know where the slant is because that's going to be important. Go ahead and fold and burnish all of the lines on the second piece. You're going to find that one is larger than the other, but essentially it's going to be the same steps. Just make sure that you overlap the two smaller tabs. Let me show you how. So the two smaller tabs is going to be a triangular one and a rectangular one. Go ahead and adhere those behind that larger one. You can secure it just like so. Okay, it's going to look just like a tiny little box, and then hide that triangular little tab behind there. Make sure it makes contact and then hold that together. So you're going to repeat that on the opposite side as well. Once your little sides are adhered, okay, you have something that looks like this, kind of like a little toolbox, right? Then go ahead and overlap this little flap that you have here. You can tuck it in if you want to, and then adhere that closed. Once your little steps are nice and dry, select the larger of the two pieces. This is going to be the first one, and look for the edge that actually has the slant on it. That's the portion that's going to adhere to your box base. So I'm just going to put a bead of hot glue. Okay, so your angle should match the angle of the side of the box. I'm going to show you that momentarily. So you should have something that looks like that. Now you can add the second one, and again you're going to be conscious of the angle there because that angle is going to match the angle of the side of the box. So here I'm just going to add a little bit of hot glue on that portion there and just sit it right on top of the first one. And then I'm going to press it toward that little portion there. You can see, creates a little steps, super cute. And you can definitely decorate those little steps also. Tiny little bit of adhesive here. And I will clean up my little glue strings once I'm done. So I'm going to apply this right onto one of the steps. So this is what the little steps are going to look like. And now I can apply the door. Now the door has this little piece here that is a triangle shape, okay? And of course there's a different door in the set. That's the one that's on the mushroom that I made. But we'll be using this one for this house just to show you how you can use it. It's got a little side tab as well. Okay, so go ahead and fold all of those. Fold the bottom tab. Okay. You're going to have the little tabs opposing each other. Okay, so just place adhesive on that center portion. Place adhesive on that center portion and then join these two together to create one piece. Make sure you follow the score lines there. Now those little side tabs are going to fold in. It's going to be a mountain fold. And you're essentially going to be closing this on itself. These little side tabs are now going to overlap. Okay, just like that. So it looks like a little triangular box. You can pull back one tab if you'd like to, if it makes it easier. And then I am going to use hot glue. I'm going to apply it there and then close that. Just overlap those two pieces. Hold on to it. Okay, and now you're going to repeat the same step on the other side. Okay, so you'll pull back that tab, apply your adhesive, and then close that. All right, so what's important here is that both sides have the same tabs covering the opposite ones, okay? It'll give you a nice clean finish. So this is going to actually sit right on top of this little door, and that's going to create a bit of an eave. To create the little door for this particular little house, it's going to be a little bit different than the one I taught you with the mushroom. So you're going to use this triangular guy here, and then the little hinge is actually a little bit longer. So I've cut both of those out. I'm just going to fold the hinge in half. Okay, I'm going to actually take the little door that I cut out, and I already decorated that. I'm going to apply adhesive to this little hinge portion, and I'm going to let that little door rest right on there, and that way I know exactly how that's going to fit. So it should be the entire height of the door. That's how you'll know that you used the correct die, but in any case it's the pointy one. There's another one in the set that's a little bit different. Okay, now you can place that door right over it if you'd like to, and then just make sure that there's adhesive only on that portion of your hinge. Place this right on top. It's going to help match it up really nicely. Okay. And then you can burnish that little edge so that way you know it's making contact. Furthermore, you can decorate the front of this door, and for that there's a long die in the set that has these gorgeous little features. I cut it out of gold card just so that it would actually show what the little door looks like. It's got that beautiful little detail there. So I'm going to apply both of these just with a little tiny drop of adhesive. So I'm first going to lay one down so that way I can estimate the distance for the other one. So I'm going to place these here, and then I'm going to grab the second one and apply that one as well. And these are optional, of course, but I think that all of the details is what makes these little projects so very special. Whoopsie, kind of move mine up a little bit. There we go. And then of course you have your little door knocker that you can add to this if you'd like to. I am going to show it to you, and it's circular and it has the little feature there on the top. So you can add this on top of the little heart if you want to. You can add it on the side like a little door handle, and I think that's what I'm going to be doing. It's more like a barn door style. Okay, so I'm just going to add it there. All right, you can double this up if you would like to, as I had done for the mushroom house. You can add a little magnet back there. It's up to you. Okay, but this is going to now open and close. And now I'm going to apply it here. And again, you need to be conscious of the fact that this is not a flat surface when you're adhering these, but I'm only going to adhere the outside portion of this because off camera I'll go ahead and add a little indoor piece there. And this is going to match up with the steps now. And I can apply pressure to that. Try to straighten it up as much as you possibly can. Of course, it might not be completely perfect, but got my little door attached to the front, and now I can add the little eave. Okay, on top of that eave, and then apply pressure. I did add hot glue to that one. And I'm just going to add that little welcome sign. Give you a nice happy home. So that completes the actual construction of this. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to finish decorating this off camera, and then I'll come back and show you the results. And of course you can add the little windows to the sides, however many you like, and whichever shape you like. There's no wrong way to do it, but there's a lot here that you can just have fun with, play around, see what suits your fancy, and make it your own. Okay, here are the results of how I went ahead and finished off this little house, this little Tulip Fairy House. I had a whole lot of fun just going along and placing the little ivy, the flowers, and I did supplement it with another die set from Tonic Studios to add 2 little pots here and a little watering can. I just thought that that would look really sweet. There you can see how I also flanked the bottom there of the little window with some little flowers and a butterfly. So let me just take the top off so you can see how I decorated this. I'll have photos, of course, that I'll be sharing. Here's where I added all of those little stones. And then on this side, I repeated the same little design. And then on the back, I did add the little stone wall. And then here you see the other little stems that you can cut out using the die set, more little flowers, and here I added the 2 little windows, one on top of the other, and a little golden butterfly. So this was so much fun to create. The other thing that I decided to add were Nuvo drops, of course, to highlight all of those pretty little petals, and then on the smaller ones as well. And that's super easy to do. The Nuvo drops you can add in so many different styles and colors that are available, so it is a lot of fun to go ahead and incorporate that. And here is the other little house that I had created, so if you want to see the tutorial for this one, I will have that linked below. Then also I did create a card. So what I did was that I cut both of the petal styles that are available with this die set. As you can see here, I did create a shaker card. So what you see here is the panels that are decorative that you can cut as a layer are on top of acetate, but it also is cut out of the coral panel here. So you can definitely go ahead and repeat the cuts, whether it be on a background, on a middle ground, on the top. You can layer it to your heart's content and just come up with different ways to decorate your cards. So don't think that just because you've purchased a die set that is for a 3D project that you can't transfer that to your card making or your mini albums, because this can certainly be the cover of a mini album as well, and that would be absolutely stunning. So here I did stamp the happy birthday, and then I added the 2 little leaves and another little flower from the die set, and then this I also went ahead and decorated with different Nuvo drops, and those little sequins are just some little gorgeous little sequins from Tonic Studios, and I don't know if they're still available, but they're really bright fuchsia color, and I'm super happy with how that came out as well. I really do hope that you enjoy crafting with these items as much as I have. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Which one's your favorite? Which one do you look forward to making first? I would very much love to read your comments. Don't forget, if you're new, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can know when new videos are coming up, any new tutorials, or any news that I might share on this channel. And I always hope that you can be inspired and be blessed. And I thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.